In this video, I'll explain how to add UTM parameters and referrer URL to Salesforce leads that are created from website forms. Welcome to Intelligent Marketing Integrations. My name is Pavel Titov. I'll begin this video by explaining how to determine source of the lead, of website lead, and how the data can be used to attribute a lead to the source and pass that information to Salesforce. Give an example how to do that integration using Formsable service, and finish with a small demo. Adding UTM parameters to Salesforce for leads requires a combination of a client-side tracking that would establish where the visitor initially reached the website and associate that with lead details, as well as a server-side integration that would get the form data and pass that to the Salesforce API, all the fields that the user entered, as well as the attribution data, the actual UTM parameters, referrer URL, or any other details of the source of this visitor that generated a lead. So one way to do this is to do proprietary integration that will store the data and link that to some sort of user identifier, user cookie, and then integrate with Salesforce API or Salesforce email integration to create leads from that information, create Salesforce leads. A much easier way to do this is to use Formsable. Formsable is a marketing data integration service that provides visitor tracking, lead attribution, and has built-in integrations with common CRMs such as Salesforce. So I'll show a step-by-step guide how to use Formsable to, first of all, how to send web forms tracked by Formsable to Salesforce, and also how to configure Salesforce to tell Formsable to send that extra attribution information, UTM parameters, UTM source, medium, campaign, as well as referrer URL. For this example, I already have a web page that's connected to Formsable and sends the leads with Formsable. And Formsable tracking script includes the tracking of any parameters and tracking of page views. So Formsable already has the information about the source and about the leads. This means the only remaining part is to connect Formsable with Salesforce and configure Salesforce. Let's get on to this. In Formsable, open API credentials. Press Connect. Choose Salesforce. Salesforce might request to re-enter password if it wasn't previously authorized with Formsable. If it was, it will create the credential in Formsable straight away that will allow Formsable to create leads in Salesforce. Step number 2. Go to Outbound Integrations in the Formsable. Click Add and choose Created Credential and the event type that will be passed to Salesforce. In this case, it's lead. Press Save. This was the entire configuration required to pass web leads to Salesforce when using Formsable. Formsable automatically maps all the fields. It maps standard fields like first name, last name, company name, but it also checks for any custom fields. So for example, if you have an industry field in lead and you have an industry field in a website form, Formsable will recognize that there's an industry field in a web form and there's an industry field in Salesforce and will automatically pass the value to Salesforce. So it doesn't require any manual mapping of the fields. The second step of this configuration is to go into Salesforce setup and configure Salesforce to store UTM parameters. This is done in the Setup section. Click Setup, open Object Manager, Objects and Fields, choose Object Manager, select Lead. In Lead, go into Fields and Relationships section and press New. Enter name of the field, choose text type, and for the name we'll use, for example, UTM campaign as an example. So field label might be any text, but the field's name would have to match the field name how it's displayed in the Formsable. So for example, if Formsable displays it as UTM campaign, it should always match. Press next, and the next steps usually can be left by default. And proceed with adding all the other fields that you would like Salesforce to store from the Formsable. So let's open the test page. I added UTM parameters here: source, medium, campaign, and I'll complete it with the details. Once submit is clicked, this lead is being tracked by Formsable, and we would be able to see it in the Formsable user interface under the visitors section. It contains all the data about the lead source, and it also tracked the GA cookie. And here it shows the tracked events, including our lead that's been successfully sent to Salesforce. So opening leads in Salesforce now and refreshing this page would show this new lead. And it will include all parameters that have been configured in Salesforce setting. This lead has Facebook source and campaign name and GA cookie, all of which can be used to look it up. And this lead can be looked up in the User Explorer, which will show entire history, all that we've tracked. And it's tracked here as well, and if that was to be a real website, you would obviously see a full history of interactions with the website stored in Google Analytics as well. Let's review what we've talked about in this video. First, tracking source of the web form leads requires a combination of client-side and server-side tracking and integrations. One path should store the data about source of any page views and associate them when the visitor browses the website, and attribute the lead to the initial page view that that had the attribution information. And then there should be server-side integrations that sends it to Salesforce. And then I shown how to use Formsable data integration service to implement this integration with minimal amount of configuration required.